in conclusion, to that is called the new marriage, the new modern marriage. The new modern marriages, like I said, the wife, husband, the wife. In the new modern marriage, the husband and the wife are married, but because the husband has physical health condition, some sort of physical health condition, where he and his wife are not able to live in the same house together because of his physical health condition. And so she lives in her own house, or maybe she lives with her parents for now. Maybe she lives with her parents for now, or maybe she lives in her own house for now. And so her husband cannot live in the same house as her because of his physical condition. So that their husband, the wife, and they're legally married. I mean, they got legally married in the eyes of God, and so they're husband and wife. And so yes, they married in the house of God. They got married in church. They got married by a pastor. They got married in the eyes of God, and so their marriage is legit. It's kosher. I mean, their marriage is according to the holy book. Their marriage is according to what God's will for them is. So they're married, so they're not committing adultery. They're legally married. And so they have sons and daughters, okay? So they have their own sons and they have their own daughters. But the husband, for some reason, because of his physical health condition, the husband just is not able to live in the same house as his wife, like I said before. He is not able to live in the same house as his wife, so he has to live in his house. He has to live in his own house, and she's got to live in her own house. She's got to live in her own house, and so he lives in his own house. And see, so they're married. The husband and the wife are married, but the husband cannot live in the same house as his wife. Well, that's kind of sad. But what I like is if it works out that she can live in her house and he can live in his house. He can live in his house, she can live in her house, and their marriage is still intact. It's not in trouble. Their marriage is still intact. And that kind of saves the marriage. So she'll live in her house, he'll live in his house. He will live in his own house. She will live in her own house. And so yes, they have children together, but week one, she takes care of the sons and daughters. Week 2, she sends the sons and daughters to his house because it's his turn to take care of their sons and daughters. And so, and then also the wife can come visit the husband at his house, possibly have dinner with them and the kids. And there are times when the husband can go visit at her house, possibly have a dinner with them and the kids, their sons and daughters. And I like this is what they call living married but living in two separate houses, or living apart in two separate dwelling buildings. She lives in her house, he lives in his house, he lives in his house, she lives in her house. They both have kids together. One day, the kids are living at her house. The other week, like the 1 week, the kids are living at her house. And then the next week, the kids are living with him at his house. The kids are living with him at his house. And then the next week, then the kids are living at her house. Both two different houses. They live in two different houses. They don't live in the same house. But hopefully, when the husband's physical condition approves, he doesn't need to live in his own house anymore. So what does he do? He gives his own house back to his mother, the grandmother. He gives the house back to the mother. So his physical condition say per se that his physical condition got better. And so there's no need to let him live in his own house. So what he does is, because it's originally his mother father's house, he gives his mother and father back their house and goes to live to be with the wife and say, because if his physical condition got better, there's no need for him to live in his parents' house anymore. Because his physical condition has improved, he can now live in a house with his own wife and kids. And he can give his mother and father, he can give back to his mother and father, so he can give it back to them. And what I like about this is, if it works out right, it can save a marriage. It can really save a marriage and family. I think the way I think it has the potential to be a lifesaver. It saves a perfectly good marriage between the husband and wife and their sons and daughters. And that's what they really like about this. And I hear it seems to be catching on, which I'm glad about that. Because it would be beneficial to me, because if I ever found a girl I like, I would marry her if I ever found a girl that I like. I would marry her and have children with this girl. But then I realized because of my own physical condition, I'm not able to live in the same house as her yet. So I'd have to live in my house with my parents, and she would have to live in her house. It may be her own house, it may be a house that her parents' house. Maybe she lives with her parents. Or maybe she just has her own house. But I'm not able to live in the same house as her, so I'd have to live in my parents' house. And hopefully after 5 years, 4 years, it'd be even better, but I say, I'll give it about 5 years. I hope nothing over that. I hope nothing over 5 years. 5 years is all I'd like to be living with my mother now, because my father is deceased. So now I just live with my mother. But if I ever find the girl of my dreams, you can be sure I'm going to marry her, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to keep the marriage. Even if I have to devise a plan where she'll live in her house for about 5 years, and I'll have to live in my mother's house for about 5 years. I love her so much. If I found the girl of my dreams, I love her and the kids so much that they'd even devise a plan where, okay, hon, you live in your house and I will live in my mother's house for 5 years, and hopefully after 5 years I won't need to live in my mother's house anymore, so I'll be living in the house with her and the kids. But in the meantime, she can come visit me. I may be able to go visit her, and the kids might be with her 1 week, and the other week the sons and daughters with me. The sons and daughters with me 1 week, and the other week the sons and daughters of ours would be with her. And we take turns, we'd rotate. See, this is how we will share. But for now, I would have to live in a separate house. My own mother's house. I'd have to live in a separate house. But hopefully, after 5 years, my physical condition will improve, and I won't have to live in my mother's house, where I can give her her house back, and I can live with her and the sons and daughters. But due to my physical condition, this is why we have to live apart for now. I'm hoping that yes, we will get married and be husband and wife. But that's gonna mean that after we get married, I'm gonna have to live in my own house. She will have to live in her house. She will have to live in her own separate little house. And I'm gonna have to live in my own separate little dwelling with my mother. But then hopefully after 5 years, my physical condition will improve. It will change for the better, and I'll be able to live with her and the sons and daughters. So I'm hoping that this is not going to be forever, but it's going to be temporary. Not more than 5 years, I'm hoping. Well, you take it into, I'll watch a TV show like MASH. You remember the TV series MASH, the Korean War? Remember Honeycutt had his daughter, a little Aaron, lived with his wife back in Iowa or something, back in the States, while he was stationed for maybe 7 years, whatever the Korean War lasted. They say the Korean War was short, so okay, let's say he was stationed there for 7 years in Korea. And he didn't get to see his little girl Aaron because his little girl Aaron lives with his wife in the US. But then after, when the war is over and he can move back into the States and finally be reunited with his wife and his little girl. And so I kind of got the idea from that, and it seems to me that's a good idea, and I'm really hoping it will catch on. It's called Married Couples But Living Apart.